Hey you guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. Beast! I'm YouTube famous now, available in 2018. The album, Dad AF. Rock on, gold does woman. How many of you are ready for Stevie Nicks to make her appearance in American Horror Story? Raise your hand. I am. Okay, let's get right into this video. This is the after show. This is the after show that I do after every one of Shane Dawson's videos. I've done them for several of his series now, and I watch the video and then I kind of make my reaction to it. And typically I like watch the video and then like right away make my reaction video to it. The after show, as it is. But today I did something different. I like got up and I was doing a bunch of stuff, and then like I watched the video, and then I kind of wanted to just let it, you know, mull for a little bit of what I thought about it. Because I had a lot of different opinions about this second episode. And, you know, I'm trying to go into it with a completely open mind, but I have to say this, okay? And as interested as I am in seeing a Shane Dawson series, the more I watch, the less I'm interested in the life of Jake Paul, honestly. And, you know, I've said this in other videos that I've done already, the trailer video and the last video that I did, that I'm not real interested in the life of Jake Paul and Logan Paul anyway. I mean, I know this isn't about Logan Paul, but I'm not really interested in the life of Jake Paul anyway, or his videos, or any of that kind of stuff. What I'm interested in is the phenomenon behind this, like, you know, what makes him who he is, and that he got up there, you know, and there was like some interesting things that like clips they showed. Like one of the interesting clips that he showed was when Jake Paul says, I want to be the like first social media influencer to be a billionaire or something like that. And, you know, this kind of drive behind what goes on, and then like all of this other stuff, the backstory, like that's what I'm really interested in finding out about. And you know, to be really honest with you, I'm not real interested in whether or not, this is just me, okay? But I'm not real interested in whether or not Jake Paul is a sociopath. And, you know, I know that that's the direction that the series is going into, and I guess maybe I need to do my own series, or somebody else does, on Jake Paul and the phenomenon. But I'm like more interested in that, you know, like seeing the inner workings of, you know, all of the people that have been his friends and the ex-girlfriends and the family, and that's what's interesting to me. So I'm kind of like ready to get into that, if that makes sense. I will say this, you know, and I was looking at some of the comments on my last video that I did about the first episode. Since the second episode went up, and people were saying things like, oh, the second episode is so much better and it's so much more interesting and it got really deep, and I think it did. I think it was really, really smart for Shane to go in and meet with a psychologist and sit down and ask her all this stuff, and she read straight out, you know, of the criteria and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was very interesting, but, you know, not really anything that you couldn't Google, if that makes sense. So it was kind of interesting to hear her go back and forth. It was also interesting to see like the clips that he used in there. And if you follow Shane on Twitter, he put this thing out yesterday, and he said like this kind of like warning. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, is this like, what's gonna happen in this episode? Because he said in there something to the effect of, you know, like, I'm going to show clips of somebody crying, and I mean, you know, instantly I knew it was Laura Lee. I was like, oh God, I mean, like, I've cried in every vlog I've done for the last 2 years. Is my ass going to be up in this video? But, you know, so he said, you know, he said, it's not personal. I'm just using the clip as an example. It doesn't mean I'm calling anybody a sociopath. And in fact, on the video, he goes in, like, right before all this, like when he asks her examples and whatever, and he puts a warning up on the screen, and he's like, the clips that I show are in no way me saying that these people are sociopaths. So what do we learn from this episode? Well, we learned that basically everybody's a sociopath. No, we learned that, you know, I did think that it was interesting though, that like after all this was done, and he said something to her like, am I a sociopath? And she's like, no, you're an empath. And, which is, it's not a psychiatric diagnosis or a psychological diagnosis, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I do think that Shane Dawson's an empath. I really do. I do think that, you know, he's empathetic towards other people, and he picks up on their emotions and things like that. You know, but when he was like, after that, he goes, the only thing I know, or something like this, is that, to Andrew, like, I'm not a sociopath, and you're not a sociopath. So anyway, but I did also love what he, like, she was talking about, like, people and what they need, and that he was, like, showing pictures of all of his friends. So I think that's, like, Shane's way of, like, trying his hardest to not be biased with this whole thing, you know, and I thought that was good. My favorite part, honestly, of the whole episode was at the very end, when they're standing out in the street, and the girl comes up to him, and he's, like, asking her about, like, do you know any sociopaths, and she says something about her friends, and all that kind of stuff. I thought that part was, like, really, it humanized the whole video. So I don't know what I think, you know, like, it was good. I will say this, for every episode being 40 plus minutes long, I'm not bored at all with it. Like, I'm not bored in the least. Are you guys? Like, it was interesting that, so I talked in my first episode after show, the after show. Do you guys wonder what Shane Dawson carries in that Louis Vuitton backpack? That's what I want to know. I always watch these videos. People always say to me, like, they wonder about, like, little stuff that's, like, in the background of my videos. Like, that's the kind of stuff I wonder. And I will say this, like, when I met him, he had the Louis Vuitton backpack. And I so wanted to ask him, like, what do you keep in your backpack? But I didn't want to be intrusive. So, I mean, I don't know. It might just be filled with candy or condoms. I don't know. You know, maybe it's all the leftover condoms from TanaCon. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and, you know, I'm watching this and I go into it. Oh, no, I know what I was going to say. So, like, on my last video, I had said, are there people out there that said that they were not going to watch the series, but they started to watch it? I got a lot of comments from people and a lot of tweets from people saying that they had no intention of watching the series, but they couldn't help themselves and they went in. Thank you for being so honest. I really appreciate that. That they went in there and they actually watched the episode, and now they're going to watch the whole 8-part series of it. There are a lot of people also that are waiting to binge watch the whole series, which I think is, you know, interesting as well. I mean, we are literally a Netflix generation at this point, aren't we? We just want to sit and binge watch a show. We can't wait. And then Shane Dawson, after the first episode put out, he goes, how do you guys want me to release this? I'm thinking 2 a week so I can spread it out. And everybody underneath there was like, well, there were a lot of people that were like, do what you want, do what you want. But there were a lot of people that were like, release them 8 days, like every day in a row. Shane, we want to binge watch it. Let us all see it. So I vote, I don't know how you guys vote, but I vote for him, release, because I'm just ready to see the whole thing unfold. And, but it was interesting, you know, how many people said they weren't going to watch it, and now they are watching it. So, again, I'm going to pose the question, you know, like, how many of you said that you weren't going to watch it, and now you've watched 2 episodes of it, and you're, like, real into it at this point? Because it is interesting. The other thing I want to know is, did you guys, well, I'm sure you did if you watched it, all of these clips of, like, the people with the masks on and all that kind of stuff? Like, did Shane and Andrew go and film all of that? Like, let's just take a step back for a second, okay? That is like, I mean, unless he like pulled that from like stock footage somewhere or something, which I'm sure, I don't know that I believe that. I have a feeling he went out and filmed all of those pieces, and that's like, that is some extensive like filmmaking, you know what I mean? Like, that he had to really think this through and like what clips he wanted to use. So I don't know, maybe he used stock footage, but it didn't seem like it because it was all consistent. It was all kind of the same masked people and scenes and all that kind of stuff. So that shows, and even if he did pull it from stock footage, to pick the exact right scenes and, you know, put them in there, I mean, you're talking about some fantastic filmmaking, some fantastic editing. So it is the whole thing is very interesting, the whole thing is very interesting to me so far. You know, I knew that he was going to do this whole episode where he just sat down with the psychologist and he talked to her and, you know, kind of found out more about it. I'll tell you honestly, if the whole direction is that it's just going to be to find out if Jake Paul is a sociopath, I think I'd like to maybe see one or more other, you know, like, opinions about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know that I just want to see one psychologist's opinion about somebody, because I think that we do, I think the tricky thing about all of this is that we do live in a society where we want to, you know, like, diagnose, like, you know, armchair diagnose from, like, YouTube or, you know, just knowing somebody. And I don't know, like, do you guys have friends like that? I have a lot of friends that are like, oh, well, so-and-so's this or so-and-so's that. And it's like, okay, that can be a little dangerous sometimes, you know? And so I'm really glad that he did use, like, you know, a psychologist in this and went in there and talked about, you know, the different signs and symptoms of things that you see in there. And I thought it was very, very interesting the way that he broke it down and that he kind of slowly wove in Jake Paul. Did you hear, though? Like, she kind of mentioned him, I think, before. Like, I don't know if he mentioned it first or she did, but kind of like he slowly pulled her into that and then like told her what it was about. At the end of it, when they're sitting there talking, and I really liked her. I think she seems very cool to me, and she seemed like she really knew what she was talking about. I did like at the very end, though, like when they were sitting there and they were just like talking, and Shane's like, well, maybe I need to go to a therapist and fix my... They were talking about how he always wants to help people, you know? And then he said, well, maybe I need to go to a therapist and I need to do... Like, that would be the series, right? And she's like, oh, yeah, how many sessions do you think that would be? And he was like, 500. That would actually be a really interesting series, though, to see, you know, Shane go in there. And I really, really liked that, like, when she was talking about, like, the different signs and symptoms, that he did, like, bring it back to him and talk about, like, his response to that personally, and even talking about, like, his growing up with his mom and things like that, which he's talked a lot about on his channel, and, you know, that's even, like, kind of a little bit about, like, his, you know, short film that he made and the lottery and stuff like that. But I thought that that was really interesting how he wove all that together. I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you think is going to happen with this series? Are you excited about it? Are you, like, more intrigued now? You know, it's interesting, I was thinking about this because, you know, it came out, like, today it came out on the heels of, like, the 3rd episode of American Horror Story, and I love American Horror Story. I'm really struggling getting into it this season. I liked the 1st episode, the 2nd episode was boring to me, and the 3rd episode last night was okay until, like, the very end, and then I kind of liked it. But it's, like, with this kind of, like, series that Shane Dawson's doing, I think we, like, measure our interest or how much we want to continue to watch it, you know, based on each episode that comes up. And I was sitting there watching it today, and I was like, I'm kind of ready to just get into the world of Jake Paul. And I know that he has to set it up, the backstory. I totally get that. I totally understand that. But I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm kind of like, let's move into the world of Jake Paul. And he says in there that it started off with him just wanting to talk about Jake Paul, or that it started off him talking about other YouTubers, and then it moved into Jake Paul, and then at the end of it, he's like, okay, this is much bigger than I thought it was, because she cites a statistic that it's like 1 in 25 people is a sociopath. Pretty scary statistic. And, you know, like, and she's talking about the difference between sociopaths and narcissists and all that kind of stuff. And I talked a little bit about that on my, the 1st episode. It's interesting the clips that he's pulling. And I said this in my 1st one. Actually, somebody just tagged me on Instagram in this conversation they were having with a friend about his using Eileen Wuornos in his 1st episode. And if you don't know who Eileen Wuornos is, she was a serial killer, and she was on death row and all this kind of stuff. She's gone at this point, but he used her, like, a picture of her, and they made the movie Monster with Charlize Theron. That's her. So anyway, there's 2 documentaries about her on Netflix. The Life and Death of a Serial Killer is the 1st one, and I don't know what the 2nd one is called. But anyway, and so these people tagged me in this picture of, like, their conversation about, like, my reaction to it and talking about Eileen Wuornos. But then he goes in today and he even shows, like, other clips, and I was like, Shane is so smart. Like, he's really, you know, decisively picking what clips he uses of who and things like that. And I thought it was really, really interesting. So, you know, it's not just the Jake Paul thing. It's how he's weaving this whole story together and telling it. And, you know, like, I'm just a lover of stories anyway. So to see the story unfold, I think is really interesting. And if you watch any documentary series, you know, especially the ones on Netflix that, like, we're so into watching lately, and, you know, you see, like, The Staircase or The Keepers or, you know, Making a Murderer, and I think there's a 2nd season of that coming out, and you see how it unfolds, the story, right? It's like you have to know the end before you know the beginning of how you're going to tell the story, and Shane knows that, so it's not like it's just unfolding. Like with the TanaCon series, I felt like he just sat down and the whole thing kind of happened in a couple hours, you know, which that may be the case, I'm not sure. But like with the Jake Paul thing, it's like I feel like he already knows the direction that it's going to end on, and now he's kind of like building the story up to that, which is so smart and it's so interesting. So it's going to be really, you know, interesting to see what happens going forward. The next one, I think, is all about the family. He showed at the end of the episode that it's like the family of... He went into it a little bit in this one, and he talked about like Logan Paul and Logan against Jake. And I didn't talk about this in my first after show. I didn't talk about it, but you know, like the whole idea of this kind of sibling rivalry is very interesting to me in the context of one of them like upping the other one. And they showed like clips of Jake even saying that kind of, you know, about Logan this and Logan that. And Shane kind of got in and talked a little bit about Logan in this one, but also kind of showed them like, you know, pitting them against each other a little bit, which I thought was interesting, you know, and I think it's something that like we think about, you know, Jake and Logan Paul being over here and being successful, but we don't really think about them like being pitted against each other. And maybe like y'all watch Dance Moms back in the day, like Maddie against Chloe, and you know, it's like, do they challenge each other to be better or to be bigger or to be the biggest, or who's going to be, you know, the biggest YouTube celebrity out there? And maybe like on some level, that's what it's all about. So at the end of the episode, he showed the family stuff going forward. That's going to be really interesting. That's going to be very, very interesting to see behind the scenes of the family of Jake Paul, don't you think? So, and how that all plays into that. I'm really, really interested to see that part. I also like, they showed a clip of it in the first episode about him sitting down and talking with one of Jake's friends. Like, I want to see that as well. Like, the guy that, I can't remember what his name is, but the guy that was like, the manager and of the Team 10 house and all that kind of stuff, and the one that knows like everything that goes on with Jake Paul, like that conversation, I'm ready to see. The family, I'm ready to see all that. I think it'll be really, really interesting to see behind the scenes. So I'm in it. Like, I'm strapped in. I'm ready to watch. Shane, stop making us wait so many days. I'm ready to see it. Release it tomorrow. Release it tomorrow. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you going to watch it? Are you going to continue to watch the series? Have you been watching it? Are you not interested? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.